Hey, welcome to The Explainer. So today, we are going behind the screen. We're going to unpack that really complex and, let's be honest, often difficult relationship millions of college students have with their social media feeds. We'll dive into what the very latest research says this is actually doing to their well-being.
Okay, let's just start with one number 93%. That's how many young adults in the US are on social media. I mean, think about that. It's staggering, right? It's not just some tool they use anymore, it's the entire environment they live in. So, yeah, it's a constant presence. We all get that. But the real question is what's the actual impact? A huge new study decided to dig way deeper, asking why are students so drawn to it? And what is the real cost to their mental health? This goes way beyond just counting screen time. It's about getting into the deep psychological stuff that's really going on.
All right, so let's unpack this research. To get some real answers here, researchers didn't just, do a simple survey. Nope. They did a massive review, pulling together all the most current evidence from around the globe to get a really clear picture of what's happening. The method they used is called a scoping review. Now, what does that mean? Well, think of it less like one single experiment and more like creating a giant map of all the research that's out there. They basically gathered up a huge collection of recent studies and analyzed them all together, looking for the big patterns that you can only see when you zoom out and look at all the evidence at once. And when I say huge, I mean it. The scale here is pretty impressive. They synthesized 22 separate studies, pulling data from 10 different countries. We're talking the US, China, Turkey, all over. But here's what's really important. They only looked at research from 2024 and 2025. So these findings, they aren't just global, they are absolutely up to the minute. So the big question is, what did this mountain of data actually show us? Well, it uncovered some really specific psychological and behavioral triggers. These are the things that really pull students into what the researchers call problematic social media use. And just so we're clear, that's a pattern that goes way beyond just scrolling a little too much.
And what's really fascinating is that this wasn't just happening in one place. Nope. Across every single culture they studied, the very same core drivers kept popping up again and again. It creates this really powerful and almost always negative feedback loop that is incredibly hard for students to break out of.
Okay, so let's break down the why. It's basically a perfect storm of pressures. First up, you've got the big one, fear of missing out, or FOMO. We've all felt it, right? It's what drives that compulsive need to check your phone. Then you add upward social comparison. This is huge. It's that constant feeling you get when you're comparing your real life to everyone else's perfectly curated online lives. And the research shows that leads directly to depressive moods. Then you just layer on top all the real world stuff, academic stress, not getting enough sleep, and boom, you've got a recipe for a really powerful downward spiral. And this quote really gets to the heart of it. It shows why social media often becomes a coping mechanism. See, for students who have a tough time just identifying and expressing what they're feeling, the online world can feel like an escape. The phone becomes this tool to kind of numb out the stress or sadness, even though, as we know, it usually just makes things worse down the road. So yeah, all these drivers, they don't just exist on their own. They all mash together and create a really clear, measurable, and honestly, often pretty serious impact on a student's mental health. And there's a specific term researchers use for this pattern, problematic social media use, or PSMU. And this distinction is so important. This isn't just about, being online a lot. It's about a compulsive pattern where someone actually starts to lose control over how much they use it, and it begins to have real negative effects on their day-to-day life. And look, the connection between these two things isn't just some vague idea. It is a stark statistical reality. You can see it right here. The data consistently showed what's called a dose-response relationship. Basically, the more a student's social media use becomes problematic, the more severe their symptoms of depression get. It's a direct link, and this pattern was just undeniable in the research. And when I say the link is strong, I mean it is scientifically rock solid. One of the studies they reviewed found a direct predictive link. The p-value was less than 0.001. Now, what does that mean in plain English? It means the chance that this connection is just a random coincidence is less than 0.1%. It's about as direct a link as you can get in this kind of research. Okay, so I know this all sounds a little grim, but the research doesn't just leave us there. And this is the crucial part. It also maps out a concrete path forward. It actually offers some real solutions, both for students and for the universities trying to support them. The strategy they recommend isn't about just telling people to put their phones away. It's about empowerment.
So, step one is all about media literacy, actually teaching students to think critically about how these apps are designed to hook them. Then you pair that with building real, genuine peer support systems to fight that feeling of isolation that pushes people online in the first place. And finally, it's about kind of using technology against itself, promoting tools like screen time apps that help students take back control and manage their own habits. So, at the end of the day, this research gives us the data. It's a clear map of the risks, the triggers, the whole shebang. But it leaves us with one final, really important question. And this one goes way beyond college campuses. It's really a question for all of us. In a world that is always, always on, what does a truly healthy digital life actually look like? For you?